Alrighty, I would like to welcome all HBCU faculty and students. My name is Tanisa Walters. I am the communications coordinator here at the National FinTech Center at Morgan State University. In 2019, Morgan State University received a multi-year grant from Ripple to promote FinTech education and research at Morgan State University and all other HBCUs. Morgan Center for the Study of Blockchain and Financial Technology, the FinTech Center, joined the global network of institutions known as Ripple's University Blockchain Research Initiative, UBRI. This is a select group of 44 universities engaged in a worldwide effort to develop specialized curricula, accelerate academic research, and innovation in blockchain technology, cryptocurrency, and fintech security. Over the last 3 years, we have used Ripple support to create awareness of blockchain and fintech on more than 60 HBCU campuses across the country and 2 universities in Africa. On October 13th, 2020, the National FinTech Center was awarded the Ubri Maverick Award for standing out amongst the other universities in the most efficient use of grant funds. We are grateful to Ripple for believing in our mission to support faculty and students at all HBCUs to develop their skills in various areas of fintech. Our ultimate goal is to develop a talent pool that will bring the sorely needed diversity, equity, and inclusion to the industry. Without further delay, I would like to turn it over to Jason Nolly, a second-year PH student here at the Morgan State University.
Thank you, Tanisha. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here this morning. Today, I will be introducing our wonderful panelists and our moderator as well. Today, moderating the panel will be Jared Valère. Jared received his undergrad degree from Tufts University. He attended and completed his Harvard Graduate School of Design summer program for architecture during his education in Boston. He then attended California College of Arts in San Francisco, receiving his Master's of Architecture. During this study, he also engaged in various design and build related roles. Currently, he is the Senior Global Workplace Designer for Ripple, where he leads the design, project management, and construction for all office builds. He has collectively and collaboratively established the designs for offices in San Francisco, New York, London, and Singapore. Also on the panel today as well is Ms. Ariel Williams. Ms. Ariel Williams is a university recruiter based in the San Francisco Bay Area. She is very passionate about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and connecting talented students with great opportunities. Ariel has worked in talent acquisition for the past 5 years, and university recruiting is very exciting to her because she gets to help build the next generation of future leaders. Also, we have Mr. Nathaniel Rose, who is a senior software engineer at Ripple on the data platform team. He is the co-lead of the Black at Ripple Employee Resource Group community. He is a former ex-Microsoft engineer and neurotechnology researcher who focused on gaze selection and brain-machine interfaces. Nathaniel advocates for education equity, having directed a National Society of Black Engineers chapter for over 5 years and co-founding the Bay Area chapter to aid students with STEM skills, giving them the edge to pursue future life endeavors. Next on the panelists, we'll have Oscar Morita. Oscar is a technology professional originally from Berkeley, California. He completed his undergraduate degree in business at Howard University. After a brief period in the hospitality industry, Oscar knew he needed to try something new. He started his physical security technology career and obtained his master's degree at the George Washington University. Oscar is driven by solving business challenges with technology. Oscar's first introduction to blockchain technology came during his master's degree. He and his classmates studied how the technology could have alternative uses to improve record management. Years later, when the opportunity to work at Ripple became a reality, it made sense to join the company. Oscar gets a firsthand to see blockchain technology and crypto market as a security systems administrator for the global security team. In his role, he helps secure the facilities and people he works with on a daily basis. And lastly, we have Mr. Mark Scott. Mark is an information technology professional with over 20 years of experience in data management. Throughout the years, he has been fortunate to have had multiple roles ranging from developer, engineer, analyst, to even trusted advisor that give him a unique perspective on enterprise, information management, and architecture. This experience has made Mark a trusted advisor for his clients and a thought leader in the field. His wide breadth of experience allows him to educate both technology and business leaders on how to get the best value for their coveted asset, data. Lastly, he is spearheading his efforts in his local community of Brooklyn, New York, to introduce cryptocurrencies, system engineering, data management, and data analysis training to the underserved workforce in the form of courses in a continuing education format. Everyone, please welcome our panelists. Now we'll pass it over to Shay, who will introduce Ripple. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. I'm just going to share my screen here. Okay. Apologies, give me a second. All right, so hello everyone. I am Shay Goff. I am a recruiting manager on the university team. I have the pleasure of working with all these amazing people you're about to meet. You'll hear quickly from me, and then I'm going to pass it off to the great panel that we have today. So we'll talk about what is Ripple. You might have heard about it and been like, what is Ripple? So we'll dive into that, talk a little bit about what we look for in people that we hire, and get started on the panel. So I would love to just kick things off with a little video. It kind of paints a good picture of when we talk about financial transformation, financial inclusion for everyone. At the end of the day, the work we're doing, it does have a great end result of giving people access to money in real time. So this will paint a little bit of a better picture for you.
Whether you're a financial professional, an overseas worker, an entrepreneur, or a developer, you will find it faster, easier, more transparent, and more affordable to send, receive, and manage digital value. Our world is in the midst of a profound transformation. We want that transformation to work for everyone. Here at Ripple, we're building financial solutions that are faster, more transparent, more sustainable, and more efficient. What took days will now take seconds. What was costly will now be more economical. Call it the Internet of Value. It's blockchain technology solutions that will help put trillions in trapped capital back to work. It's environmentally responsible crypto innovation for a world that demands sustainability. And it's a whole new way to create, move, exchange, and leverage digital value. We're not just after something more. We're after something greater, which is why we're building it together with researchers and policymakers, financial professionals, developers, and entrepreneurs. This is the journey we're on together, enabling a world without economic borders, not just for a few, but for everyone.
All right. You don't need to watch this again, please. Okay. Let's go to the next slide. All right. So what really is Ripple? So I'll tell you a little bit about our vision, our mission, our philosophy. So our vision is to enable the world to move money like information moves today. We actually have coined a term, it's called the Internet of Value. And what that really means is we want money to move as fast as information moves today. Many of you probably have not sent money from out of the US, maybe you have, but it actually takes days, if not weeks. And we joke at Ripple that the fastest way to get your money, let's just say from New York to London, would be to pack your bags with the money yourself. So super slow. We're dealing with technology from the 60s, and we're trying to replace that because everything in our world today is real time. And so how we do that is by building breakthrough crypto solutions. Like I said, for a world without financial borders, we want people to have this called financial inclusion, be able to move money in real time, be able to send money home to their family or receive money from a business, et cetera, and not have to wait days, if not weeks, to get the money and experience lots of fees that are involved with all of the traditional ways of moving money. And you'll hear a lot of companies talk about disrupting and changing the status quo. That's a hot buzzword when it comes to startups, but we consider ourselves builders rather than disruptors. We are in a space where we need to work with regulators and governments. So we, when we say support compliance, that's sort of what we mean. Also, what's nice about our crypto products is they don't require a lot of energy consumption. Like you've probably heard, Bitcoin can literally power the entire country of Argentina with the amount of energy it uses. We are nowhere near that level. So we're proud about that. And we're extremely transparent in everything we do, from our culture to our products. So Ripple, you can think of it as three parts, three products. And within each team, or within each product, there's different teams. So if you're an engineer, if you want to be in marketing, if you want to be in finance, or even recruiting, chances are you'll work on one of these three products. RippleNet is kind of like our main, I call it our bread and butter. This is most used by our banking customers to move money, currencies that you know today. RippleX is more on the crypto side of things. We're working with developers to increase the use of crypto outside of just payments. So they're doing a lot of cool things, lots of cool things like NFTs, working with developers that are in gaming and art and music. And they're building a lot of open source products for developers, which is really exciting. And then lastly, we have our newest product, which is like a startup within a startup called Liquidity Hub. And this is a big deal for us. We are building an exchange for our customers to buy, sell, and trade all kinds of crypto. Historically, the cryptocurrency that was a part of our product was called XRP. So this is going to give our customers the opportunity to transact with all cryptocurrencies. So we can be a one-stop shop for all things crypto. We've got 600 employees and growing. Myself, Ariel, and Kiara on the line are going to try to help us get to close to 900 by the end of this year. We've got 9 offices. We're opening 3 more, one in Miami, one in Dublin, one in Toronto. We are a flexible first company. So if you don't live in these locations, that's okay. We're trying to hire the best talent no matter where you are. And then just real quickly, when most common question that we get is, do I have to know a lot about cryptocurrency? Do I have to be a blockchain expert? The answer is no. You're going to hear from a lot of people today that don't have that experience. I didn't have that experience. We just ask that you be curious and that you want to learn about our space. It definitely helps, because when you're hearing a lot about these buzzwords and concepts, it's good to be curious and interested. But we're hiring across the board. I think we've got 200 jobs open right now. Like I said, we're going to hire at least 300 people this year. So chances are, whether you want to be in sales or marketing, finance, or you want to be a designer, we will have an opportunity for you. So I'd love to pass things off to my friend Jared here, and he will introduce the panel and they'll talk about their journey to Ripple. So thank you.
Thank you, Shay. Hello, everyone. I'm Jared Valaire. As Jason mentioned, my background being in architecture, and as Shay alluded to, a number of us have no immediate background in the fintech, especially the crypto space itself. So the people you'll hear from today are Ariel Williams, who's our university recruiter. Myself, I'm the designer for Ripple's workplaces. We have Oscar, who is our security systems administrator, Mark Scott, our senior staff partner engineer, and Nathaniel Rose, our senior software engineer. So just to open it up, alluding to what Shay was commenting on, for myself specifically, I got into crypto, not pursuing it, but by happenstance of just having the opportunity to design a growing company's workplace, and being able to influence that. So I'd say early on, if you pursue your passion, it could land you in special places. With that said, I'd also will now open it to Ariel and asking her, how did you get your start in crypto, given you've come from a non-traditional background, more so the business side and not so much the finance and crypto side?
Sure, thank you. My journey into crypto was actually rather short. I joined the company in January of this year, so I haven't been part of the crypto hub for that long, but my background is in fintech and SaaS companies. So in that sense, it's not that far of a stretch to now be in blockchain and cryptocurrency. I would say my journey into fintech actually started sourcing and placing finance and accounting talent at a number of Bay Area startups like Uber, Twitter, and Facebook. And in recruiting them, I also wanted to start to join that fintech industry. So I actually joined a B2B fintech to support their hyper growth phase. And I think what really attracted me to Ripple was the chance to work in a like-minded setting, building and growing quickly, but also working in a very innovative space. I think that blockchain and cryptocurrency specifically have the potential to change and revolutionize the global economy. And at the end of the day, I wanted to be part of that. So I'm happy to be part of Ripple and here with you all today to chat more about this. And I'm going to pass it over to Oscar.
Yeah, so for me, I never knew I would end up in the DeFi space. My background, food service, higher education. I worked for a regulatory agency, and then all of a sudden I got a call from a friend of mine who was working here. They're like, "Hey, we got this position we think you'd be great for." I was like, "Okay." And they're like, "Oh," I was like, "What do you all do?" XRP, blockchain. I'm like, "Oh, blockchain is a cool technology." So I was like, "Yeah, this sounds great." So it was, my career's just kind of been very non-traditional. So when I got the opportunity to work here and join a company who cares about their people, I was like, this is perfect for me. I think that's the part.
So, well, yeah. So before we pass that along, I did want to just kind of circle back a bit. So Ariel, since you have the background in recruiting specifically, did you also come into the crypto space mindful of maybe some underrepresented kind of margins or things like that that you wanted to really have an impact in?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's my main reason for being in university recruitment, is to make sure that, the phrase that there's no diversity in talent. I think one of my main goals is to make sure that people realize that talent and diversity are not mutually exclusive. And I really do love being in the position to usher in a lot of, traditionally underrepresented and overlooked talent into the space, especially since it's growing. And I think it's going to continue to grow and be a dominating industry. This is the space that I want to bring people into. And Ripple is an amazing company to work for as an intern, an early career individual, or somebody that's got a lot of industry experience. So definitely happy to be recruiting here.
And then also just for you, Oscar, since you come from a previous background of like university setting, is there ways that you kind of wanted to carry any impact from that setting into the Ripple space or even just the crypto space itself?
Just making sure, so kind of different than Ariel, just the thought and just being open to solve problems. Because when I was in the university space, what I loved so much was young people and the way they thought about things, and they weren't like jaded by society. They were like, "Oh, I could do anything and everything," and I want to bring that to this space, and then also to show the folks at Howard and everything, hey, they're looking for us, and we have a space that we can work in. And just because you didn't do blockchain, that you can work at a company like this and be successful.
That's great to keep in mind, especially for our audience today. And then just switching gears a bit to the more technical realm and the background of Ripple. For Nate and Mark specifically, what made you join Ripple's engineering team, and kind of what stood out as kind of this being the space for you at that time in your career?
I'll jump on that. So from my perspective, joining Ripple came kind of at the tail end of my engineering background. I kind of had a non-standard path. I had about 10 years of being a developer. I kind of, and being a developer in Silicon Valley startups, and being kind of like the first developer, and being kind of like that lonely, only Black developer in a lot of these startups. So it got to a point where I had switched out of development and went over into sales engineering, right? So a technical representation, but in the business, on the business side and in the sales process. Did that for about 4 or 5 years, and learned about blockchain through a partner of ours at a company that I was working for. And in learning about blockchain, realized that no one else, even engineering or on the business side, understood blockchain. So, I figured, let me jump in. I invested a couple of dollars into it back when Ethereum was like $13, and made a nice piece of change doing that. And as I realized the depth of what blockchain itself was able to do, I created my own company, right? So that's one of the things I would forward here is, from a non-standard pathway is just like building something, right? So I said, well, you know what, let me jump out, build something. And a couple of years of doing that, running my own over-the-counter cryptocurrency company, realized that the power structures were still the same, right? In terms of who owned what and where the value was, and how we were still kind of, as Black and brown folks, kind of forced into the margins. So realizing I needed actually to come from an internal perspective and have the support of an organization behind me to kind of project me into the space the way I wanted to. I searched out positions, and there were a couple other companies, larger companies in the space. We all kind of know those names. But in looking at the job requirements, looking at kind of the position that Ripple took in how they presented themselves, I chose Ripple. I chose Ripple to, to go after, and going through the interview process was actually one of the best, processes I had been through. So that kind of set it for me. It was the people, the process, understanding what the values were and how those values fit into the scope of blockchain. That allowed me to actually, seal my decision to make it Ripple. So yeah. I think that's kind of the way it unfolded for me.
Yeah, just to add to that, I dabbled in, I guess, when it comes to cryptocurrency trading a little bit early, not as early as Mark with the $13, but a bit later than that. And I think there was, because I used to work at Microsoft, I'm an ex-Microsoftie, and there was a little bit of like a novelty when it came to blockchain technology and cryptocurrency as this kind of play area. It wasn't fully fleshed out. And I didn't necessarily understand it until I took the time, which was the time that was given to all of us during 2020 COVID, when we were all sitting at home. We were all, really reflecting and contemplating life. And I took the time to look through what is going on behind the scenes, right, of the blockchain technology, and where is their value to be provided in society. And that's when I started to understand like who are the big players in the game, what this technology could be utilized when it comes to the Black community, how it's being made accessible for all sorts of people to be able to come in, build financial literacy when it comes to digital currency, when it comes to decentralization. And they're looking for developers and engineers to come into the space and help grow this space, this industry. So I took the time during 2020 and took a chance, and I think it was a really rewarding chance, taking my back-end engineering, software engineering background that I built through Microsoft and bringing that to a space which is just growing. And we could see some parallels where the same sort of novelty and maybe even condescension could have happened maybe 15 years ago when Facebook was just getting on the ground and Twitter was just getting on the ground. And now they've become our social dichotomy that's virtual of how we interact through society, right? So this is an opportunity to get in on something that could really grow to change and revolutionize how we think about value and money.
And thank you for that. And given that our audience today is an HBCU, it'd be great to, especially for our engineers, I'll circle back with our other panelists, but between Nate and Mark, could you just give our audience some of the challenges, being a Black engineer, maybe the education on some practices, coding, things like that, that you all encountered and had to resolve to overcome, kind of some early keys to success for our audience today?
Yeah, I'll jump on that there. Again, like I said, just the label of lonely only, right? Being the only Black developer in a startup was a consistent pattern. However, in the face of all that, knowing that there's always a pattern and there's always a cycle, right? That's one of the things that made me actually into the developer that I am today, because my process becoming a developer was, again, non-standard. I went to college. When I went to college, I studied sociology. I studied management. I was a Division I football player. Ended up playing football for professional football for about 4 or 5 years. So I had already become a professional, and after leaving, walking off the field, I was probably 27, 28, and saying, all right, I need a way now to sustain myself for the rest of my life, and figured, like, okay, what's the next thing? What's the thing that I feel is going to sustain me, for 10, 20, 30 years. So I had to reposition myself back in school in a non-standard, continuing education context, and taking that context and actually, going through a process where, I had to re-educate myself. So that's my thing, is to say, continue, always continue being a builder, build something. That's one of the ways I got back into school was, taking on just courses outside of school, coming back in, building applications, showing that I actually had the skill sets to do it, and just proving in what I felt, business actually needed, which was a balance between the theory of the learning, but then actually the actual application of the standards and the processes and the things that you've learned, right? I had a professor, one of my first programming professors, that, he looked at me and, he was like, "What are you doing here?" And I said, I just want to build something. And he left me with like this statement where he said, "Listen, the best programmers are the laziest programmers." And it took me a moment to try to like understand what that actually meant. And I had to go back to him to get the idea and get the concepts. As he said, well, really, programmers don't want to have to repeat anything. You do it once, and you want to do it once, and someone else can take whatever you build and they can build on top of that. So that was one of the things that kind of stuck with me, to say, okay, understand what it is, understand the business of the people that you're interacting with. And I learned early that, like, the programmers weren't seen as part of the actual business. They were seen as commodities. And that was one of the things that actually like kind of shook me and set me straight, was like, okay, I need to get my process together, because these startups and these businesses, they're hiring us to implement these algorithms, and the algorithms will live beyond us. However, we were seen, at least in those days, we were seen as the guys that came in and just built it, right? Like, now there's a lot more sustainability. There's a lot more, participation in the whole ecosystem of what's going on. And that's kind of what led me to blockchain, is to not just be, a component or someone who builds a piece of the system, but then we actually have stake. Right, we have stake in the system, we have stake in the process, and it takes a mindset of just systems thinking to be able to kind of see the bigger picture and not just focus on the task at hand or the task that you've been given. So yeah.
And Nate, if you have any comments on that too.
Yeah, I think the question is challenges, right? When it comes to the tech space. Let me first start out by saying I'm jealous of developers today who are just coming out of university. Back maybe 10 years ago when I was coming out of university, Stack Overflow wasn't that popping. You know what I mean? Like there wasn't as many resources. There wasn't, just go sign up for Khan Academy. There wasn't masterclass and all this stuff. So much information. YouTube was basically internet like between 2.0 and 3.0, where it was like cat videos and everything. There wasn't resources that were available back then. You had to either go to a university to kind of build that acumen, or either just play around and build it from the ground up, right? And kind of like cipher through the context of building code and building those skills. So I think the challenges today, especially when it comes to this industry, blockchain technology, is just being lowered every day when it comes to making things open source, making things available, providing instructional videos on how to get started. And for me, I'm coming from a backend software data engineering background. Just entering the space, you can pick things up really quickly, right? And it's made available. So there's tools and utilities that you can start to use to understand what's going on behind the scenes. And I say ride the wave. There's been too many times that crypto industry, blockchain industry has been written off as this novelty, kind of like leisure crypto bro space, when it just keeps reemerging, and now it's something to not ignore anymore. There's too many institutes that are embracing it. We now see HBCUs have a blockchain fintech initiative around it, which is paving the way when it comes to universities providing curriculum for this. But also, use the tools that are available. There's like TikToks that talk about blockchain and crypto industry now. There's so much information that's being passed. This is also malicious information as well. So being able to cipher through that. But for a technologist, a software developer, there's tools to be utilized and resources to be referred to when it comes to learning and upskilling in this space.
And then just for the audience that may not be engineer savvy or tech heavy, Ariel and Oscar, if you could just shed some light on kind of how you've had to navigate translating your backgrounds into the space that still shows importance and kind of lets everyone know how both the engineering side, given that Ripple is a product delivery based company, but also all its other functions are very core and important to that success as well.
Well, I'll take it from here. But again, mentioning that I got recruited from, by Ripple late December of last year, I would say there weren't that many challenges getting into crypto specifically, but that's not to say that I didn't face challenges and upheaval in previous roles in fintech. Being one of one is definitely something I've experienced, not being acknowledged or taken seriously, having, contributions diminished or even having my voice silenced. And then also experiencing the effects of the pandemic and being laid off abruptly, I think really definitely created challenges for me. And not being early on in my career, I think was also a chance for me to kind of put my head down and figure out what I wanted to do next. And I think I personally love being in university recruitment because I can decrease some of those difficulties, especially for the underrepresented talent, and maybe, ease their start and their progression into the tech space. I think continued support and mentorship when you get in the door is integral. And I think, the first time I really experienced that was actually at my last employer, where I was not told to hold off because I didn't have enough social equity, but I was also, given the opportunity to take on business critical, hyper visible initiatives. And I think, that supportive environment really, really helped me hone professional maturity and confidence. With that being said, I feel that Ripple is even more of an engaging and supportive environment for all employees, regardless of their tenure, the role they play in the company, or their backgrounds. And I think it's a lovely place to be. And it definitely, you would face less challenges getting your foot in the door here than I've experienced elsewhere. It's a long-winded answer, but I'm going to pass it over to Oscar now.
My challenges in the space, I work in global security. physical security. So my job is to secure people and our critical infrastructure and everything. And it's a position where it's not important until it's important, if that makes any sense, right? Like people aren't really worried about it and sometimes get upset about security because, oh, well, why do I have to use my badge here? Why do I have to sign up for this? Why do I have to do these things? And it's like, well, we're trying to protect you and protect our product. And, so that's always challenging, making sure we have the right finances to do our jobs and understanding that we have to be lean and mean in our part of the business because we're not necessarily generating revenue. We're an expense, all right? So just being good at my job is how I attack the challenge, making sure that I make the dollar stretch as far as possible, serving my internal clients really well. So when they need something, I'm there providing, making sure that I'm up on what's going on in the world. So if someone's traveling somewhere, I can make sure that they're safe. So, it's challenging, but I find for me, making sure that I perform at a high level will always silence the naysayers, and also advocating for myself, making sure people know what I'm doing and making sure they know, like, here's how I'm keeping you safe. Here is how I'm impacting the business, even though it may not seem like it.
Yeah, thanks for that note. I'd also chime in just saying that, given that my background is architecture and design, the beauty of my role is figuring out how to basically develop that physical space culture, which I think the benefit is everyone on this call today, on this panel, we all play a role in that culture at Ripple. And the bigger benefit is we get to help exude some of that Black character in what we provide to the company. So I'd also just want to, kind of being mindful of time, ask our panelists kind of what is, just that one nugget, that elevator pitch of advice you'd give to some of our audience today.
I want to jump on that really quickly. Your career and your success is your responsibility. I had a manager tell me that one time, so I was complaining about not getting trained or not getting this. And he was like, well, your manager has a responsibility for that, but you also have a responsibility for that. So if you want something, go out and get it. Don't let someone telling you no stand in your way. If you want it, get it. Your career and your success and what you want to do is your responsibility.
I can echo on that. I think invest in yourself and keep raising your hand. If there's something you're really interested in, if there's an opportunity to be involved in an initiative, a project, or to learn new things and skills that excite you, take them. You'll be really happy that you did in the future.
I'll jump on that and just say, follow your passion, follow your heart, follow your gut. We live in a time frame where, some of the structures that the traditional structures in terms of career pathways and how to get there are breaking down, right? And you have the ability to create the path and the career that you're looking for, like whatever you dream and whatever you want to create, like there is space for it. And especially in a burgeoning young industry like crypto, like fintech and crypto, like that's the goal, is to, believe in the ideas that you have, support yourself, think in terms of the bigger picture, think wide, think breadth, right? It's great to think deep and to be really specific about things, but the space is wide open, right? So follow your passion. And I think there's a lot of tools and a lot of, because of the pandemic, because of the industry, a lot of dollars and resources are being put towards, building new products, bringing on new people into existing organizations. So there's plenty of space and plenty of areas for, new ideas. So that's what I would say, is just be a builder and follow your passion that way.
I think my tip is a little bit unconventional. I would actually say read the room, which means see what's modern, see what's happening right now. That old wave, we're off that. Like, this is the new wave. There's an opportunity to build with something that is emerging and growing, and you can apply your skills, your passion into a space that you can grow with it. So I would say, be modern. Don't necessarily aspire to maybe old kind of like roles or old, archetypes of hierarchy, potentially when it comes to careers and career paths. Read the room and see how things are being modernized and revolutionized.
And just to echo on a lot of these great closing remarks, I additionally say learn what you're passionate about. And just me personally, I was raised in Atlanta, but went to school in Boston, then further school in California. And what really drove that was just resolving what I was passionate about, and then just putting feet to dreams and ideas. So with that in mind, I know we have some questions popped up for Q&A. So I'll let Kiara graciously take it over from here.
Yeah, thanks, Jared, and thanks, panel. That was amazing. Thank you for all the insights. We did have a few questions. I'm going to start with the first question that's in the Q&A from Jamal. He asked, how is XRP valued? Is it pegged to the USD? If so, how can it counter inflation without it being pegged to gold, something of real value?
I'm looking at Mark.
I know you're looking at me.
Mark.
I know you're looking at me.
A whole PhD thesis and dissertation could be used to answer that.
Answer this, exactly.
Do you want to take it?
I'll start. I mean, that is the question, right? Just in terms of value, we want to talk about value. Yes. We don't want to get in a space where where Ripple is and XRP is right now from a legal perspective. Obviously, we're in a space of litigation with the SEC. So there are some aspects of value that we shouldn't talk about in terms of how things relate to securities in the space. But the point is, right, the point is that there is value, and the value is actually locked into the actions and transactions that are on the network. The use cases that are around those actions. Currently, Ripple is in a space where we speak specifically to global remittances, but that's not all, right? We can talk towards rewards, we can talk towards on-demand liquidity, we can talk towards NFTs, we're creating NFT standards, right? So there are a whole lot of use cases that can be wrapped on top of what we call the XRPL, the XRP ledger. So there is an inflationary part of that, but there also are growth and rewarding pieces that are wrapped into the value of the actual asset itself. Right. So you have to actually look at all of those pieces, all of those threads that lead you back into the actual token, right? Because we're also looking at CBDCs, right? Central bank digital currencies, right? So these are all use cases that sit on top of the ledger, but the value is that there are transactions that are happening on the ledger, and the continued growth of the network that uses the ledger, and then the use cases that are wrapped on top of that, you're building value in each one of those streams, each one of those pathways back to the ledger, give you the ability to actually attribute value. And that's the key. It's the internet of value, and your ability to now come in and say, yes, sure, there are inflationary properties to that, and inflation should be a part of that. Burning your tokens or a token burning strategy are ways that you can do those things. But the point is that there's so much value built into the network. It's our job to go and find actually gaps in the process and business value that are wrapped on top of the ledger as well. I would give that as just like a general answer.
Could I add just one more thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm looking at Jamal's question. It says, without it being pegged to gold. We haven't been on the gold standard in almost 100 years, right?
Exactly.
You know, FDR took us off. So just as the US dollar is not on the gold standard, I barely think there's any country that's still on the gold standard. So,
but the assets, right? There are
right.
assets that we can peg.
Right.
All right, great. Thank you guys. Jamal also had a follow-up question, more specifically at you, Mark, as well. It looks like it is maybe and perhaps to the volatility of cryptocurrency, maybe specifically Bitcoin. So his question was, how do you feel about football players taking Bitcoin in terms of payment?
Oh no, that question. Wow, Jamal, I'm coming for you right now, bro. I'm coming for you. Listen, that is one of there are two sides. There's two sides to that question. The one side is our innate value as assets. We as people, specifically Black and brown, and then the pathways that we choose in life, specifically athletics and entertainment, just to pick two, right? That we have been undervalued in those spaces. So there's a lot that can be said for that, but at the top end of that, what we have to say is that here is a system that allows us to start to have transparency into the transactions and the value, let's say in a football context, of ownership, of TV contracts, of multiple revenue streams that are actually around the game itself, and that in which you are an asset and you are a player. So you should be able to have a relationship to value, to revenue, and to assets in that space, period. Let's move that to the side. The next side is the negative side, to say that if you look at what's been happening in terms of value trying to be created in the space today, a lot of the names of football players, a lot of the names of, entertainers that are attributed to crypto projects, unfortunately, those data points today, and Nate and I have been talking about this for, a couple of weeks now, is that those data points are leaning towards the negative, that they've been rug pulls, right? So there is a need for people like us, in terms of technologists who have a background in entertainment, who have a background in athletics and in those spaces, to come into the space and give the space, that relevancy and that ability to say, no, I know the technology, I know the business as a sport, and I can put those two together and give you something that is actually real, where it's not someone just leveraging my persona or my name, right, in a project, and then the project, they don't have the understanding of the technical aspects of the project itself, right? So there's a need there. There's an opportunity, and there's a gap on the business side that we need technology and crypto assets to be attached to sports and entertainment. But then we also need the validity to be able to say that, yes, right, this is a project, this is a real project. These are technologists, they understand the technology. They're not just being used for their name and their personas. So I'll just leave it as those two, because there's a lot of depth here, and that's a whole thesis, like Nate said.
All right, thank you again, Mark. So I'm gonna go to Carson, and then I'm going back and forth between the chat, but in the midst of time and kind of just the questions that I think are going to be very vital for everyone. I'm going to go ahead and go to Carson, and then I'm going to go ahead and go to, I believe it was, sorry, I just lost it, Cortland. So from Carson, what do you guys believe is the solution to the Oracle problem? Blockchains not being able to create smart contracts based on variable data or data from external APIs. Also, do you guys see a future where the world only uses one blockchain instead of several different ones?
Nate.
I can answer the last one.
Yeah.
And again, this is predictory, and I mean, we're not on CNN Money Talk where we can like kind of like predict like what's going to happen with crypto and digital currency. But I mean, you're implying that a single blockchain would be the definition of centralization, which goes back to what we were looking to avoid, the kind of concept of how we were looking to decentralize. We can see that there'll be multiple networks that can be, targeted and, push for different use cases and implications. The first part, the Oracle problem, so being able to predict and blockchains not being able to create smart contracts based on variable data. You're getting into the woodworks. My best answer to that is pass it to Mark. Yeah.
Yeah. Damn. All right. I have to say the same. Just like we're not CNN. I'll punt on that one and head towards the Oracle situation, right? The challenge is obviously it's deterministic data that lives inside of the blockchain, always has to connect to off-chain data. So the same best practices from a technical perspective in understanding oracles and the need for oracles and the need for you in a, like Nate said, in a decentralized perspective to then interact with technologies that are off-chain, right? So you have to have the same securities, you have to have the same type of distributed nature in the actual data itself and in the systems themselves that are distributed systems that those APIs are speaking to, right? So you're always going to have a layered architecture where you've got this data layer that is the blockchain, that is rock solid, that is decentralized. You're going to have an interaction with an off-chain server world, and in the off-chain world, you have to actually bring and be just as diligent about security and passing data through APIs back and forth across the wire, TLS on the wire, security of data at rest, security of data data in flight, security on the CLI, security on the APIs, right? Those are all the things that we need, and a distributed nature of the application layer to be able to support a full-scale enterprise-grade interaction or application for any business use case. So that the answer is blockchain is way ahead and out front in terms of those things, and that's why finance and risk in general, right? So that is a risk, and that's something that needs to be addressed in the creation of a scalable enterprise grade. When you talk about a geographically distributed application that has the scale of financial apps, like that doesn't just take one person or one answer. That takes a whole team, and it takes the implementation of secure standards that blockchain codified in its code base that we need at like the application levels as well, right? So as we do everything in the cloud, we lose control of a lot of some of those concepts, but there are best practices around those concepts that exist today, and that some of the bigger AWS's, GCPs, and those distributed SaaS and platform as a service players are putting in play today. So there are plenty of places to try to solve a problem like that. The space is wide open.
I'll just put a last thought. Being able to answer these questions requires a little bit of economics background, a little bit of finance background,
exactly,
understanding of the banking industry, what's happening with the blockchain network, how it's expanding. We definitely want to acknowledge that. Not everyone on this call is probably familiar with it. Folks are entering this industry at different places, at different segments and components. But we do advise to get plugged in and just continue the learning, right? because this is growing rapidly. It's being adopted quickly. And again, we're employed by Ripple. So if you ever want to give us a CNN talk, we'll do your speculations.
Yeah, we'll do that one. Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
All right, thanks. We have 3 more minutes, so maybe we can get in a couple more questions. Cortland, I know I said I would ask yours first, but I actually see Usman's, and I think it's pretty relevant, and I think it'll be a pretty expeditious answer that we can give you. So their question is, if someone is building a project within the space, are there any opportunities for funding or grants? Yes. Does anyone?
Yeah, I think, don't quote me, but I think the news article this morning is Ripple's given away about $1 billion in grant money. So yeah, get on the website and check it out. That's the goal, is get those projects up. And again, like Nate said, I mean, there's plenty of space, and we are employed by Ripple. So that the Ripple grants program is an amazing space and a proving ground for new projects like that.
Yeah, definitely type in XRPL grant, I believe it is .org. And I think Lauren Weymouth, who hosts the University Blockchain Research Initiative, all about blockchain podcasts, is also somewhere in the chat. So she could probably give you a link. Oh, Kiara already did.
Yeah, just drop the link, everyone.
Oh, wait, Lauren just joined as a panelist. If you say Lauren's name 3 times during
she'll
any
appear.
blockchain, she'll show up.
Come on, Lauren.
Is she on? Okay, well, I can't see Lauren, but yeah, if you are interested, please click on that link that I just shared. There's so much information there on kind of how our grant program works. Thank you. As far as the next question came from Cortland. I have a question in regards to cryptocurrency in terms of adoption and scaling. How can we prepare for the future as institution and other potential market movers start to transition to crypto? This applies to personal finance and career paths. I think that's to end on.
That's a great one. Yeah, so my thought process around that, I do a lot of work in the community around that. And, it's multifaceted. It's getting to the point of learning a set of skills, getting to the point where once you understand those skills, implementing, building your capabilities, right? Like building yourself up to a point where you're able to actually implement the use cases that you're looking for. I believe that we have structures in our communities, community-based structures that allow us to already do that. We do a lot of things in groups. We invest in groups. We go to church in groups. We do everyone should have some contextual relationship with crypto, in my opinion, because we're a little bit ahead of what the community is thinking. So that's always going to be my perspective. But then I think stepping back and bringing people along slowly at the pace that they are in groups, right? And then starting to actually participate and do some due diligence and learn about some projects and test it out. Build an economy. Like we are the economy, right? So we're one of the largest consumer-based economies on the planet. So leveraging that ability in an economy that I think this morning crypto in terms of market cap is probably about 2 to 3 trillion, and it's still early. So there's plenty of time, organize, learn, and build.
And last point I'd say is find credible resources. Find credible resources. I think Morgan State University and the FinTech Blockchain Initiative that's happening here is an institute that has a buy-in to build credible resources and education and curriculum around this space. It may be at a slower pace, but the use cases and the bad use cases that are also happening in the industry are going to be in your textbooks or in your curriculum, so that you can understand where not to go, where where it might be something that could be risk aversive, but something that could be beneficial in the long run when it comes to the growth. So find credible resources like Ubria, like the FinTech Center here, and then also be conscious of who you're getting information from.
Can I chime in really quickly for those that are not technical? All of these crypto and blockchain companies, Ripple ourselves, have opportunities that are tech adjacent. So finance, marketing, sales, anything that's non-technical, there's a way to get your foot in the door there too. So definitely keep an eye out for the opportunities that are not just targeting, software engineers and data scientists.
Okay, I mean, I want to be respectful to the time. There were some questions, but just because we're already past time, I'm gonna go ahead and say sorry if we did not make it to your question. However, feel free to obviously add all of these panelists on LinkedIn. Sorry, I don't know if I just, made you guys mentors by default, but that is also a great way to just enhance your networks. So please add us on LinkedIn. That was my email and the recruiting team's personal emails, as well as our kind of general alias. You guys can reach out to us there for opportunities, questions in regards to culture, internships, new grad opportunities, etc. So yeah, other than that, it's been great. Does anyone have anything additional?
Yeah, just to that point, just a specific thing to that point that in terms of adding people, and I don't know, I don't want to blow up whose spot it is that added me prior to the event. I think it was Jamal. Jamal, I'm gonna say your name because it might be you. All right, someone added me prior and had started a conversation. So things like that are memorable. So I just want to leave that, just reaching out, creating mentors, having conversations, doing things like that. I mean, that's something that, now it's in my mind, right? So I appreciated it and I saw it and I hear it. And I'm just thankful that, those are things that, will keep you ahead of the curve and will have you stand out in the process. So I appreciate it.
All right, well,
Thank you all.
Yeah, I think that's it then. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.